everyone, and welcome back to another episode of In the Spotlight. And today's guest is an amazing author of the Inspector Kaldis book series, Jeffrey Sigers. And we are featuring Jeffrey's wonderful series today. Jeffrey, thank you so much for being on In the Spotlight.
My pleasure to be here, Yanna. Thank you for having me.
The wonderful thing about Zoom these days is that we can interview anyone we like anywhere around the world without having them in our studio. How wonderful is that?
It's great for me, although I wish I were where you are right now.
Jeffrey, I just want to say congratulations. We're very excited to feature your books today. The Inspector Kaldis novels are based on the murder mystery book series of the acclaimed, you are the acclaimed and gifted author of these book series. And the hero of your book series is Chief Inspector Kaldis, Inspector Andreas Kaldis. And he's called in to solve the most intricate murders taking place in various locations of Greece. It is really a compelling book series. It's very exciting. I've read 2 of them already, and I know you have a 10th one that just came out. So I don't know where to begin. You have had a very interesting journey in your life. Can you begin by telling our audience a little bit about yourself?
I grew up in a mill town of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. In those days, it was a mill town before it became the technological and medical center that it is, to Great Depression era parents. And I decided when I was in high school that I was going to be in the creative arts. But my father suggested I find a career where I'd make a living. So I went off to college and thinking I would be a doctor. By the time I left college, I decided I'd be a lawyer. So I entered law school, and from there I went on to Wall Street. Then left Wall Street and formed my own law firm and achieved, thankfully, financial success. And then I decided at the peak of my career that I'd give it all up, move to Mykonos, and write mystery thrillers, all for desire of being interviewed by you someday.
Wow. I think that even Tiffany's chiming in on agreeing with me that is an amazing story. And so as an American attorney that left and went to Mykonos, ended up just leaving or not really practicing law, but focusing on your dream, which was the creative side of you. Doing something more creative. And so you started writing this book series, but you started with 1. Did you believe that it was going to become 10 books?
No, when I originally wrote Murder in Mykonos, which that was number 1. That was about, I guess, 11 years ago, 12 years ago. Time goes by so quickly. It went on to be number 1 in Greece, and hit the radar list of New York Times bestsellers. But I never thought it was going to be a series. When I wrote it because I wanted to describe the social, political, and basically lifestyle of the people in Mykonos. People I considered to be family, and they considered me part of the family. And I wrote it to talk about the island. The way to do it best, I felt, was through a murder mystery, because I could explore a lot of people that way. I took I took a Mamma Mia style setting, even though Mamma Mia wasn't set on Mykonos, and I dropped a serial killer into the middle of it to turn it into No Country for Old Men. Well, when that book took off, and it did take off, as I said, this is probably a series. My publisher definitely agreed, and now we're up to number 11 is coming out in April, beginning of April. Each book is about a different part of Greece. And that one coming out, it's called A Deadly Twist. That one is about Naxos, which is another Cycladic island, very close to Mykonos, and also very close to my heart.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit. Tell us about how you got to Mykonos, why you went to Mykonos, and you went to the murder genre using the elements that you basically started perceiving, or a lot of things that you saw there. And you know, it's a beautiful setting. Greece is serene. It's gorgeous. It's a perfect paradise life. But yet you saw, or you encountered, or you heard of a lot of political and some, you know, a lot of crime, you know, news that doesn't really come out. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, I first went to Mykonos a little bit over 35 years ago. A friend of mine, she said that I love it there. And she's right. When I went, she actually said I love all of Greece. And I do. But we went to Mykonos one day on the trip. And the second I got off the plane, I felt as if I were home. I don't know why. I had this strong feeling. And we then stayed that first time down at a hotel right in the harbor, the Lido. And I was walking down the first day I was there down the street, and I met this jeweler, a very nice guy, and he invited me into the shop. And I figured, oh well, we're gonna get pushed. He never pushed me for anything, but what he did he became my best friend. We were like brothers, and I spent my time there. I became part of the island through him. I basically became part of the island, and the more I left, I went through it all. It was such an innocent time back there. Back then, the old timers used to say, oh my God, I remember back when it was quiet, when it was different. But you still, at that time, you still had beaches which were inaccessible. You still had donkeys on the street selling flowers and vegetables. They weren't selling it, the people walking the donkeys were. And you still had have yourself a very good time there at a relatively inexpensive price. When I wrote Murder in Mykonos, I was reflecting back on those first 20-some years and what I remembered of it. At that time, that was like the benchmark for me, is what I thought of Mykonos then. This part about a serial killer was completely made up, of course. The next 10 years, I've written 2 other books that were basically based in the middle of Mykonos. One was Mykonos After Midnight, and then last one, the Mykonos Mob, which is in paperback as Island of Secrets. That detailed a major change in how the island had evolved, how it went from being this wonderful place that everyone always acknowledged as being that way, to a place that was on the cusp of being, let's say, invaded by those who saw Mykonos as being a place to make a profit when the financial crisis hit. And the final one I just wrote, that is out now, that is about what has happened. In the second book, I had warned. In the third book, I'm telling what's happened there.
Jeffrey, where do you get, you know, your inspiration for all this intrigue? I mean, you're great at adding, you know, using your skills from your legal experience in putting all of this together. And being like an investigative journalist, being able to compile all this type of information, rather. And how does all this fit in for you?
I'm the kind of writer who goes by the seat of his pants. I don't have a fixed feeling of how I'm going to get to where I want to be. I just let my fingers take me there. And I will have an idea. Like I was sitting down in Tarpon Springs one day, chatting with somebody, and he mentioned something about a certain island, and I said, wow, I could see a whole thing happening here. I was sitting on the terrace in Mykonos one day, and a neighbor said how her husband, her late husband, had been a jeweler who used to be over polishing up the valuables over in Tinos in the secret places they kept all the donations, which gave me an idea for something else. So the ideas come from many places.
The wonderful thing about your novels is that they are travel guides. I mean, I know that they're, you know, surrounded by European and global corruption and intrigue and all this crime, but, you know, these political crimes that people are actually, it kind of brings somebody, it inspires people to visit Greece, you know, regardless of the story. You are actually promoting Greece, and you're promoting Greece in a big way.
When I originally thought of writing the books, there were people who said, please don't write them because you're going to destroy tourism, which I thought that was quite a compliment to think my book would destroy tourism. But it was just the opposite. Because whenever I go on a book signing, a book tour, I'm talking about murders here, this, that, people say, oh my God, I can't wait to visit. Maybe there's something I should know about the person I'm talking to, but they can't wait to come there. And with the Mykonos mob, which really talks about the wild, dark side of the nightlife and everything going on there, people love it even more. I was, and as far as the Mykonoans thinking about it, when I did the first book, I was somewhat concerned that my friends would hang me by a tree in the harbor, although they'd have no trees in the harbor, they could use a lamppost. But they loved it. And with the 10th book, which was the Mykonos mob, I was in Dallas giving a book signing, and a fellow showed up who's a Mykonoan. He lives during the off season in Dallas, Fort Worth actually. He came with his wife to the signing. I was very happy to see him, but then I realized I get into the rather sordid details of what's going on in Mykonos in my little presentation, and I was concerned that he would be upset that I'm saying these things about the island. Well, I gave it. I gave the full bore explanation. Some people asked me hard questions about what's going on over there, and I answered them honestly. Afterward, he was the first person to come over to me, and he looks at me and says, Jeffrey, you didn't tell enough.
Let's start with Murder in Mykonos. I'm going to throw you the titles. Just give the viewers a brief pitch on it and why it's important to get, after you read one, guys, you got to get to the next one because they're so fascinating. They also have a lot of information about antiquities, political crimes in there. It's so interesting. And although they're fictional, it's just very interesting. It's like a Jack Ryan. It's really an amazing compilation of information and the way you bring it together. Jeffrey, here we go. Book number 1, Murder in Mykonos. Pitch it to our viewers.
Murder in Mykonos involves young women who come there for a holiday and disappear. And one has disappeared every summer for 20 years without anyone noticing what has happened. Until one day, when Inspector Kaldis goes there as the new chief of police in Mykonos, a body turns up on a mound of bones inside an old church, and it takes off from there.
Assassins of Athens, book number 2.
Assassins of Athens involves the death of a young man who was the son of a very powerful family. And it doesn't turn out to be what it looks to be. It turns out to be a new effort to undertake the practice of ostracism that dates back to ancient Greece, run by a group of people who think they know how Greece should better be. And it brings together a lot of political thinking from a lot of times. It's really a story about Greek and the government. It's about the Greeks and their government.
Prey on Patmos.
Well, Prey on Patmos is about Greeks in the church. A priest on the island of Patmos is murdered, and in conducting an investigation, it leads right back to Mount Athos and the secretive lives that are led there within the monasteries. And it really does explore what goes on in those monasteries and how things have happened. And that particular book, by the way, gets into things which even today are considered secret but real.
Targetinos, book number 4.
Well, Targetinos was chosen as a pick for the summer by the New York Times. And that book really explores Greece and the immigration process. That involves as we know, the church Pania over on Tinos is sacred to many people. And people continue to give donations of gold and silver and gems as part of the procedure for the prayers they offer, request. And this book says, well, where is all these treasures kept? Where are they kept? And how come nothing has happened to them? How come they're still there? No one has tried to rob them. Well, guess what? In my book, someone tries to rob them.
I hope you're not giving people ideas, Jeffrey. I'm joking.
I got a story about that. I got a story about that when I was doing my research, but go on. you want to ask me that one.
Okay, let's go on to book number 5, Mykonos After Midnight. This is your second book on Mykonos.
That one is premised upon an actual murder that did happen on Mykonos, where a well-known nightclub owner had been killed by his very young ingenue of a girlfriend. And that took off from there. That was the premise. I didn't take card for inspiration because it actually happened there. But it tells the story. But it tells the story about where Mykonos was those days through that particular incident.
Book number 6, Sons of Sparta.
Sons of Sparta, that starts off, that's about the concept of family in Greece and vendetta, which people think is an Italian word, but trust me, the Greeks have perfected it. It opens with a story that is absolutely true. It opens with a story that was given to me by a fan, and where I guess the best way to put it is to tell the quick story is that one day a young man who was studying medicine in Athens was called back by his father to come home immediately. It took him a few days to get there because this was in the beginning of the 20th century. He gets home and he's sitting there, and in the garden is his sister and her boyfriend and his father. And the father says to the son who's just arrived there, he said, "I want your daughter. My daughter is pregnant. Your sister is pregnant, and he wants to marry her. I want you to kill them both." So he kills his sister there. He tracks down and kills the brother. When it comes time for the trial, he didn't run away. He was on trial. When he was on trial, the judge was about to pass verdict, and the judge's sister stands up. The judge's sister stands up. He says, "Before you pass judgment, just remember what you did to your own sister." So let me tell you, that was a true story. It didn't take much to run from there, but it explores all of that.
Let's get on to book number 7, The Devil of Delphi.
That Devil of Delphi it talks about that was character driven in many ways. It gets into the concept of bomba, which we know is basically liquor that is made out of things it shouldn't be, such as alcohol, antifreeze, things like that. It's a big problem in this world. I mean, you're talking about I think it's $1 trillion business a year, alcohol. And it talks about the counterfeit nature of it and how it's organized and how it really plagues people. There are so many people who get nailed with this, not just in Greece, by the way. This is not just tied into Greece. And no. People they're seriously ill from this. But it's one of these things that just lurks out there. And when I was doing the research for it, I spoke to a couple of bar owner friends of mine. Asked, "You know about bomba?" They acted like they didn't even know what the word meant, which got me nervous because everybody knows what bomba means in Greece. But, no, there's no such thing. Yeah, there's no such thing.
We're on book number 8, The Sandorini Caesars. That's really one about the Greeks and the military. And it explores basically the thought of a coup against a rather unpopular prime minister and how that is uncovered on the island of Santorini and dealt with on the island of Santorini. It is one of the things that has basically brought me closer to understanding how the Greeks feel about their various prime ministers. Book number 9, An Aegean April.
This one is really something that is, if I had to pick a book that really tells it in a really serious issue, is that. That book was chosen as one of the best books of the year by Library Journal, which is a very prestigious magazine that recommends books to libraries. And that book talks about the refugee crisis. The research in that involved me with talking to people who were in fact in the ministry and who were involved in chairing up the Coast Guard and all these things. And also people who had ideas on how to deal with it. This was at the height of it. This book came out.
Let's get on to book number 10. It is The Island of Secrets.
That book really is the result of where that island is now. It is there because it has been discovered as a gold mine by everybody. I mean, it is what we used to be, let's say a few hundred people showing up in a club, they have thousands. They now measure their profits in millions. You've people come there because they can do whatever they want to do without judgment. They're free to do whatever they want. You can imagine what it attracts.
Jeffrey, tell me a little bit about your experience. You know, besides the novels, I'd like to focus a little bit on Greece and your experience as a foreigner. You know, you live in America again. You're back in the States. You're in New York, upstate New York. And when you went to Greece at a different time. You've lived through a lot of different changeovers of government, and you've lived through even the euro, drachma to euro. Tell us a little bit about, in a little bit of a summary, on your view on Greece and where it stands from the standpoint of when you arrived and where it stands today.
Well, when I first went to Greece, there was concern about 17 November and what it was doing. I mean, I'm talking about now. Greece has always offered, to me, a softer way of life than I was used to here, in terms of the easygoing people, the beauty of the islands, the beauty of the sea, the culture of Athens, getting lost in Monostoraki. I loved that. It was always fun. But you had the backdrop of that, 17 November, and subsequently people I knew fell victim to that. So you had, and I remember when I first went there with my friend who took me over there. Her late husband had been in the military, and they were cautioned about how they should react. Be careful. There was a lot of that going on. So when I went there, I was alert to that. I never noticed any of it. I didn't see it. I found myself embraced by people who had a very different view of life than others did. And it's something that I found to be welcoming. And over the years, I became closer to people in every strata of Greece. So I learned how they reacted, how they lived. I realized that over here, I'm not in Greece right now, but in Greece, I could find a life that was more rewarding to me. It seemed more honest. Again, I was a writer, so I was being treated differently than if I were a lawyer. And it was fun. It is fun. But what haunts me right now, and the reason I started off with 17 November, was because 17 November, as you know, was a threat internally. And what I think confronts Greece now, and it's gone through so much, the financial crisis. I mean, between 2008 and 2016, it lost 1/4 of its GDP. That's a hell of a thing to have to recover from. But I think right now what really troubles me and concerns me most of all is Greece has several things to confront. It has economic problems to overcome and has the pandemic to overcome. The pandemic alone is something that we're all sharing in the crisis in the world. And the economic problem is something the EU is sharing. So you have Greece with the pandemic and Greece with the economic problems. That's something they're sharing with the rest of the EU. What the EU doesn't have to confront them is Turkey. The situation with Turkey is costing Greece more than anything else right now, because where they could be taking billions and using those billions to restore their economy and better the life of their citizens, they have to put into protecting themselves from the daily incursions by Turkish forces. You're having armed, as I understand, they're having live ammunition incursions into Greek airspace or into territory. But somebody has to step up. Up until now, you really haven't had America stepping up to help out or pushing for it. For the reasons may be, I guess many people have many different opinions, but America's not really voiced a strong position on this. If they had, I doubt Turkey would continue to be doing what it's doing every single day. I have no base for that other than what I read. It's not come from any conversation with anybody. But that's my view of it. Do I think things are going to change? You're going to have countries like make them toe the line and stop it. That's the only way it's going to happen, because Greece is going to continue to have to deal with these incursions on a daily basis. On a daily basis.
Jeffrey, tell us about your latest book that's coming out by Source Books again, A Deadly Twist in Naxos.
Oh, it's coming out in April. It is a story that explores the conflict between those who wish to enhance tourism and those who wish to preserve it. And it's told through the eyes of a journalist who was sent there to investigate the story for her Athens publisher and disappears. And Kaldis sends his lead guy, Yanna Darilis, over to investigate. And the first thing they find is a body outside the hotel where she lives. And she's gone, and no one knows what happened. The result is they track her footsteps to find out where she has been on the island and why she's not come back. That takes them into an age-old mystery of missing antiquities, death, and a group of people who have changed the way that island has functioned.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find Jeffrey Sigers' mystery novels on all of the sites that sell books. You know, the big ones, they're out there. They're Amazon, etc., and so on, by Source Books, the publisher. Jeffrey, you're doing a wonderful thing for Greece. You're attracting tourism. You're telling stories, and you're making people very excited. They see Greece through the books, okay, through a lot of the fictitious, crime, but there are some great details in there. I just want to say to everyone, I'm very excited because I'm personally working with Jeff, along with two of my associates, executive producer associates. We have optioned your books, Jeffrey, which I'm very excited about, and we are going to develop them into a TV series, so for one of the big studios. So we are all looking forward to that. I just wanted to shout that out right now to all our viewers to look out for that information. A press release is going to be coming out very soon. We're all very excited to be working with you, Jeffrey. We think you're very talented, as does the rest of the world. Acclaimed author Jeffrey Sigers, ladies and gentlemen, was with us today here on In the Spotlight. Look out for more from Jeffrey. I'm sure there's more to come. Jeffrey, great to see you. We're very honored to have you, know you, and I'm very honored to work with you. And I'd love for our viewers to get to know you and read your books. What is your message to our viewers?
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, I'm excited to be working with you and your colleagues. Absolutely. My message to viewers is, let's be happy that we all love Greece, and may we make it better in every way and every day.
All right, Jeffrey, thank you so much, everyone. Don't forget, check out Jeffrey Sigers also on www.jeffreysigers.com.